This is my welcome video to you to BC 301, where we will be learning about critical thinking, which is a vital skill to have in the workforce today. We're going to go through an introduction, the course structure, the reading list, habits of a critical thinker, and I'll recap what's due. And of course, all of this information is also in the course. So, an introduction, I am Gloria. Hello, everybody. It's great to meet you. So aside from loving to teach, I live in the state of Washington in a very small town called Cle Elum, and I live with my husband and my sister and my two babies, which you can see Pretty, the cat, is on the left and Hollywood is on the right. So a little bit about the structure of the course. There will be readings that you'll have to do every week. There is a textbook that you do have to purchase. There'll also be some individual articles in some of the modules, which are free links to items that can be found in the library. To see all of the readings broken down by module, you want to go to the course navigation reading list, and it will bring up everything module by module. We will have a discussion board every single week, and your initial posts are due on Wednesdays by 11:59 p.m. and you should respond to at least 2 of your peers by Sunday 11:59 p.m. You want to use APA formatting, and you want to use references. In most of the discussion boards, that is one of the requirements. And I'm looking for substantive responses. A lot of people, what they do is they'll sometimes write, "I agree," and "great point," and you can include those phrases in your response, but you want to add a little more substance to it to make it as though you're engaging in a conversation with someone. And just to get back to the responses, where it says at least 2 responses, just so you know how the grading works. If you respond to 2 of your peers, you have met requirements, you have not exceeded. So the more people you respond to can increase your grade, of course, with substantive responses. So just be aware of that. And you also don't want to respond at 11:50 p.m. on Sunday to 4 people, because that doesn't give anybody an opportunity to really respond back to you in sufficient time. So I'm looking for you guys to make a post a day after your initial post, from Wednesday to Sunday, and that gives you more than ample of responses. There are a total of 6 assignments in the course. The first one is a team assignment, and that will be due the Sunday of week 3. There'll be 2 individual assignments, and then there will be 3 assignments that all work up to your final essay, which is an argumentative essay. The points vary on, all of the assignments and discussion boards, and in the PowerPoint, I will let you know how much they are, what each is worth, and you can also find that'll be in the instructions as you're working in Blackboard. And when you're writing any of the assignments, you want to use APA formatting. For your team assignment, I'm going to assign everybody into a group, and we're going to remain in those groups, especially for the in-person visits, where we're going to be doing lots of fun stuff. So I'll be establishing those groups this week, so that if you want to reach out to your teammates, feel free to do so to stay ahead of the team assignment that will be due. So we're going to meet twice during this quarter, the weekend of Friday, February 17th, and the weekend of March 3rd. And as you can see by the time frame, we'll be meeting, there's a lot of time in there, and we'll be reviewing things that we've worked on, of course, any questions that anyone has, and we can work on future assignments, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So back to the reading list, you do have the 1 required textbook, as I mentioned earlier, Thinking for Yourself, 9th edition by Marlis Mayfield. For Module 1 in the textbook, you have to read the introduction, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. And as I stated earlier, there are some specific readings for each module, which you can find in the reading list in the course shell. And although it may seem as though this is a lot of reading with the introduction and 2 chapters, the way the book is laid out, it's really not that much reading, and it's quite a fascinating. So this week's topic is the habits of a critical thinker. So what is critical thinking? Well, it's thinking about how we think, right? So on page 2 and 3 of your textbook, there's a photo, and I want you to take a look at that photo and think about what you think is true about that photo and be critical of it, right? Think about it and don't just glance at it. And this is the process that you go through when you're critically thinking about something. Why is it important to learn? Well, it avoids bias, distortions, it helps your professional and personal growth, it enhances creativity, and it leads to mental independence. And as I said at the beginning, this is one of the top skills that recruiters are looking for in candidates for employment. So some examples of critical thinking. Right? If you're an employer and you need to hire an assistant, you gather 20 resumes. How do you go about narrowing down your prospects to 3? Well, you're going to critically observe these resumes. What is the experience? What type of skills do they have? Are they a good fit for the job that you're recruiting for? Another way you can think critically, what are your initial thoughts when you see someone texting and driving? I know what my thoughts are, and sometimes coming to those conclusions too fast, it's not necessarily a good thing. Do you immediately believe the news that you read, right? We've seen such an influx of fake news all over the place, but sometimes, we're dedicated to a particular site, and now more often we have to dig deeper rather than just taking things at face value. Another way of thinking critically, what happens when you read a post on social media? Do you ever have one of those friends and they post doctor appointment, wish me luck? I've had those friends do that, and I'm thinking, what doctor appointment? Why am I wishing you luck? Are you sick? What's wrong with you? Right? All leading to these assumptions that I'm making. Excuse me. So, and now a final thing is, how can you do a better job the next time around? And I'm relating this to an end of year review. So you've just been reviewed, and your supervisor says, well, you got a 4 out of 5, and you thought you should get a 5 out of 5. Before you jump to any conclusions, sit back, stop, think about what they've said, and reflect. Do you think that some of these points are valid or not, right? And these are all process of going through critical. We critically think when we are observing things, and we make judgments through observations. And critical thinking through observation, we go through sensing, perceiving, and thinking. Sensing is collecting the data through one of our 5 senses. Perceiving is taking that data and interpreting it and then drawing to a conclusion. So as an example, you're walking down the street and you get a whiff of something that smells delicious. So we're using our sense of smell. And the brain kicks in and it tells you, well, someone must be cooking something. And you continue your walk, and well, there must be a restaurant around here, right? You're not smelling this from a house. Let's say you're walking down a very busy street with lots of, retail stores and such. So the next following slides, we're going to go through word precision, and this is how the words that we use to describe things, right? And what you want to do when you're using words, you take any word and you categorize it into a term, a class, and then you characterize it. So here in this example, I give you glasses. So based on this one word, you don't know if I'm talking about eyeglasses or drinking glasses, right? So now I'm going to turn it into a class. It's a seeing implement. It's corrective vision implement. Characteristics of this corrective vision implement are frames that sit on top of the nose and around the ears that help people with their vision. And this is called a taxonomy. So now that I've given it some of these, I've placed it into a class and I've given it characteristics. If I'm using glasses, now you will know what I'm talking about. So other types of words and phrases that we use when we're describing something, there are scientific definitions, such as the word nucleus. Many medical terms use scientific definitions. Then you have stipulative definitions. It's when a word or a phrase does not have a common meaning. So let me give you an example. You shouldn't steal library books. Right? I'm telling you, the individual person, that you should not steal library books. The emphasis is on you. Then if I say you shouldn't steal library books, steal is where the emphasis is, and that could be interpreted as stealing library books is not okay, but maybe defacing them might be acceptable, right? So you can just see how this phrase, same phrase, but it can be interpreted in two different ways. There are inventive definitions, and these are new words that are coming up. Oxford English Dictionary has been coming up with new words more so every single year. And I came across two that I thought were pretty cool. Anti-work, which is a social and cultural movement where labor is producing goods and work is creating wealth, and labor should be rewarding, not work. So anti-work. And then there's paternity leave, and that's leaving work to care for a sick pet, if a pet passes away, or adopting a new pet. We have persuasive definitions, and these are definitions that advocate for an opinion. So think about news articles that let's say you're scrolling through your phone and you see this headline and boom, for whatever reason, you click through it. Well, that writer probably did something persuasive enough to gain your attention to get you to click on their link. And we'll get into persuasive more so as we go on through the class. Then there are connotations, right? These are words that can mean one thing to one person and another thing to someone else. I can say, oh, I love the stench of your perfume. What? Some people might say, right? So we'll use aroma. You're so lanky, and that sounds like a negative connotation. Whereas if I said you're tall, that might not seem so negative. So the example here that I have for you is dog. It's neutral. If you say mutt, how's your mutt? Kind of negative. And your purebred is absolutely beautiful. Well, that's very positive, right? So the connotations, how you use words can take on different meanings. So you have to be careful of your word choices. So then there's also being vague, and that's when you're not being totally upfront with all of your information. And there's a thing on Facebook, not on Facebook, I'm sorry about that, on social media in general called vague booking. I guess that's one of those new words added to the dictionary. And as I said in previous slides, this is the doctor appointment today. Wish me well. Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Give me some more information. Then we have ambiguous words, which can have multiple interpretations. Lexical ambiguity is when one word can take on different meanings. I am going to the bank, right? Well, I am going to a financial institution, or I'm going to the bank of the river. So, right, that one word really doesn't give me enough information to decipher what it is that you're going to be doing. Syntactic ambiguity is when a sentence can be interpreted in different ways. The chicken is ready to eat. Well, are we going to sit down and have a chicken dinner, or do we have to go outside and feed the chicken again? So you have to just be careful, right? So these need a little more information in order for it to make sense to your reader. Then you can have intentional vagueness, right, where you really want to put off the person, not make their head spin and think about what is going on. If any of you have watched The Sopranos, I don't want to give, if you haven't watched it, sorry, but I'm going to give out the final episode. What happens to the main character, Tony, and his family, right? It was the final episode of this television program that was on for so many years, and the writers intentionally left it hanging, right? And then there are also some people that use cliffhangers, and this is when you want to entice people to read or watch more, right? So The Sopranos final episode was not a cliffhanger because it was the end. There was not going to be another season. Whereas the cliffhanger, it's like, okay, now I have to wait for season 3 to be released of whatever show I love. And then we have abstract words, and these are nouns used in a sentence that cannot be seen or touched, such as love, pretty, and warmth. And I have a few examples there. Jargon, it's usually occupation-specific words or phrases, due diligence, the low-hanging fruit. And you'll hear people in specific industries using these words that really are just in their industry. And then we have buzzwords, right? These are trendy phrases or words. We've reached the tipping point. We don't have enough bandwidth to finish this project. Let's take this meeting offline, right? And the new normal and acronyms are buzzwords. Then you have euphemisms, and these are used in place of a word or a phrase that's more acceptable, and it comes from the Greek for good voice, right? So this is where you want to, again, the word choice. My friend just passed away instead of saying my friend died. Right? As a car salesman, I no longer sell used cars, but I can get you into a certified pre-owned car, right? It just sounds so much better. Instead of saying jail, we now say correctional facility. And then instead of calling someone lazy, you call them a couch potato. It's kind of a cute meaning, right? That they're lazy. So I want to talk a little bit about your final, which is 3 submissions. So it's not everything all at once. The first go around, you're going to supply me with a topic and a thesis. Thesis is about 2 words, right? So when you're thinking about your topic, make sure you use the right words so that the reader knows what it is that you're writing about. If I'm going to write about children and education, what do you mean by children? Right? They could be preschoolers, elementary school children. If I'm going to write about artificial intelligence, is it a general overview of AI or specific to wearables? And I would say here, if you were doing a general overview, that's way too big. If you make it specific to wearables, that's narrowing it down. And how about narrowing it down even more to watches, right? Because you have AI in clothing and such, but I want to focus on watches, right? The most important thing is you want to write about something you're passionate about, because when you write about something you're passionate about, it becomes a much easier process. So again, the argumentative essay, the first submission, you're going to have your topic and then your thesis, 1 to 2 sentences max. It's the main idea of your paper in 1 or 2 sentences. And it's going to be arguable and debatable paper, right? So here's the process that you can go through to develop your process. Find something that intrigues you and ask yourself a question about it, and then answer it. Take a stance. So my question is, should vaccinations be mandated for everyone, right? And I'm going to say that, COVID-19 vaccinations for children under 5 years old. So here's my stance on this. Before mandating COVID-19 vaccinations for children under the age of 5 years old, there should be more testing performed to prove its efficacy, right? So I'm talking about COVID-19 and vaccinations specifically for children under 5 years old. You can see how I'm just narrowing this down and narrowing it down. And then you see my thesis statement, and you can see my stance on what I think, right? So I'm basically telling you that, well, right now I'm going to say no because I want to find out a little more scientific information about it, right? And this is how you're going to go about your first argumentative essay submission. So your due dates for week 1, you are going to have your introduction discussion board posts. This is where you're going to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, tell us a little bit about your writing skills. And then there's going to be a discussion board number 1. Initial post is due Wednesday, January 11th, and responses are due on Sunday, January 15th. Just goes into more depth about the discussion board. So the introduce yourself again, January 11th, your initial post, share something interesting about you, whatever it is that you want to share with the class, and tell us, a little bit about your writing skills. Is all of this brand new to you? How do you feel about APA? Things of that nature. And then you're going to respond to at least 2 peers by Sunday, January 15th. More would be better. There are no points associated with this discussion board. However, it's really important that you do that you are involved in this discussion board, because it lets me know that you're in attendance for the course. And if I don't hear from you, I then have to notify registrar that I haven't heard from you. So make sure you get that introduction in. And then you're going to have Habits of a Critical Thinker discussion board, and that's due again on January 11th, initial post. And you're going to find in your textbook on table 1.1, page 10 of your textbook, there's going to be a chart, and it's going to show you and tell you, and you're going to read about all of the, the habits that critical thinkers go through. And maybe there are some there that you already go through, right, that you can align as a critical thinker. And maybe there are some things that you didn't know and you're very intrigued by it and you want to learn more about it. So let me know what it is that you're looking for. You're going to be using APA formatting. You're going to have to include at least 1 resource and include a reference list. So right off the bat, I'm telling you to use, the textbook of page 10. So that's your resource, and that's what should be on your reference list. If you come up with more information and you think it requires another resource, that is perfectly fine. You can use as many resources as you wish. Make sure to include your reference list. This discussion board is worth 20 points. And remember, substantive responses, not just I agree or great post. No assignments that are. And then looking ahead for the following week, and I'll be posting a video again. We're going to be looking at facts, and there'll be 2 discussion boards for next week, and then your group assignment is due the following week. So I'm going to just use this platform throughout the course to keep you updated and recapping the weeks as we go by, and I'm very excited to meet all of you in person, and good luck everyone. And if you need me, please reach out to me. Thank you.